Good evening, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started with our virtual briefing on the post-election lessons learned in the California general election. If you have any questions, I just want to let you know how we're going to take our questions tonight. If you're in the Zoom app, all you have to do is click raise hand on your app, and you will be able to ask a question at the end of our presentation. And wait for us to call on you, and you'll be activated so you can actually speak. Make sure that your audio is on so that we can actually hear you. Unmute yourself. Secondly, if you're on a phone, you can hit *9 to ask a question, or there's also a way for you to type your question into the Q&A box in the software. We do read the questions, and it allows us to go through each of the issues that are raised. Okay, so with that, if you don't have your question answered tonight, or if you think of one after the presentation, by all means, please email us info@reformcalifornia.org, and we will respond to each question that we get in. So with that, let's get started. First, where did we focus in 2020 with Reform California's programs? There were 4 areas. First, as we have always done, we are a statewide permanent campaign committed to oppose every tax increase that California politicians try to impose on us. They have more than enough money, the highest tax rates in the country, and that's why we announced back in 2014 the main mission of Reform California would be to oppose every tax increase anywhere, anytime. There is no justification for it because we already are paying too much in taxes. So this year, our focus was Prop 15, Measure A in the city of San Diego, over 240 other local tax hikes statewide. But we also were able to block tax hikes even before they made it to the ballot. There were a number of proposals that legislators were thinking about putting on the ballot in Sacramento and locally, and we were able to stop those tax hikes from even being put on the ballot, which was a win. You know, they didn't even make it to the ballot. For example, in San Diego, we went after the Metropolitan Transit System sales tax, which would be a countywide sales tax. And we were able to show that we were prepared and organized and ready to defeat that if they put it on the ballot. They chickened out. In Escondido, we were able to back up a city council member, just one city council member, Mike Marasco, who is the deciding vote in keeping that from going to the ballot. So what we're trying to do at Reform California is do early intervention on tax measures. And we were very successful in 2020. In the 2020 cycle in stopping tax increases from even reaching the ballot. But that's our number one project area, running the grassroots campaigns that need to be run to oppose the tax hikes. Second, we did a lot of research during our 2020 cycle. Many of you remember the rat report that we put out early in the cycle showing an epidemic of rats because of homelessness. But we also wrapped up a very exhaustive report this October 15th, that showed that 1 in 10 California households received an erroneous ballot for a dead person. Many households received ballots for people that don't live there. They've never lived there, or it was a long lost relative, a son or daughter that moved away 10, 15 years ago, or that they received a duplicate or triplicate ballot for themselves with a different or an alternative ballot identification number. So that report was part of a survey that we did statewide, an exhaustive survey, plus we produced actual pictures of the ballots. And we plan to continue to expand on that work and pursue litigation if necessary. Third is we put out our plain English voter guide. And boy, this was a real big project for us, interviewing candidates, taking positions on ballot measures across the state of California in every county. And we were able to generate over 263,000 unique downloads of the voter guide. which makes it the #1 voter guide in the state of California, outside of the Democrat and Republican voter guides. And we don't know what the statewide CRP voter guide download is, but 263,000 unique downloads of a nonpartisan voter guide is a record for being able to influence votes. And a lot of people told me that they took our voter guide and voted a straight ticket. They went right down and shared it with their friends, but they all used the voter guide, and we're very proud of that. In 2022, we want to expand on that. Fourth is supporting the reform candidates, getting them into office. Lots of volunteer deployments and rallies. In fact, in some areas of the state, we were the only ones that organized a volunteer deployment, which is sad. And it gets to the issues we have to address going forward if we want to take back California and build on our success in 2022. But I was very proud of the fact that we made more than 1 million voter contacts, and we did it at the right time when we needed to really get people to focus in on the voter guide and to turn in their ballot, because we were way behind in early and mid-October in getting the voter turnout that we needed. We used text messaging, digital, handwritten mailers, canvassing door to door, and it really did have a great impact. That picture there is just one of the rallies that we held, and candidates came and spoke, and we gave out literature as well as the door hangers. Here's the good news. Prop 15 was defeated 52% to 48%. And that was a shocker because we were outspent and we had a really bad ballot title. And I'll talk about that a little bit more in a moment. Prop 16 was defeated, the race discrimination measure. We did not spend money on this measure, but we did make it part of our voter guide, and we did help the grassroots campaign run against Prop 16, rejected by 15 points. Prop 22, we did expend money here to defend those jobs. We won by 17 points. Measure A in the city of San Diego, defeated by 8 points. By the way, we were outspent. $1 million is what the tax raisers raised, and we were only able to raise $103,000, and we beat them. We had some of our supporters come to us asking if we needed more money in the end of at the end of October, and I said no. You know, whatever we spent, we spent. We believe that we spent it the right place. We did a number of targeted digital ads to independent voters who owned their home, who lived above the 8 freeway. And if you notice where Measure A lost the greatest number of votes was above the 8 freeway in areas that are homes, single family homes. And I believe that our ads definitely moved those votes when we needed them to be moved. By the way, statewide, 1 out of 3 tax hike measures that we opposed ended up going down in defeat. For the target seats, for the congressional seats, 100% of the holds. We were focusing on 2 holds. One was Tom McClintock in Northern California. The other was the 50th Congressional District. Both of those showed polling that was really tight. We're thrilled that we held those 2. And right now we have confirmation of 2 pickups, and I believe the votes will show a total of 4 pickups. We have not picked up a congressional seat in California that was open since 1998, and we've not taken out an incumbent in California in a congressional race since 1994. In the Assembly, we held 100% of the 5 target seats. And again, many of those showed the polling razor thin. We were down a couple points, down 5 points in some cases, but we kept focusing on trying as much as possible to turn out the vote. We held all 5 of the target seats, and we picked up 1 seat in Santa Clarita. The bad news, Prop 20 lost. And again, no surprise there. We had a bad ballot title, and we did not really get any sort of funding from stakeholders for that fight. Prop 19 passed by a narrow margin. Again, no funding for our fight. The Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association and Reform California were the only 2 groups fighting Prop 19. The business establishment did a dirty deal behind closed doors to raise taxes as long as they got their piece of the action. And that was unfortunate. And in the state Senate, we only held 50% of our 4 target seats. We held 2 seats, one in LA and Central Valley, and one in Inland Empire. Unfortunately, we lost 2 seats in Orange County. That net loss of 2 state Senate seats means that our ability to break the supermajority is going to be difficult in both the state Senate and the Assembly, but it's still possible as early as 2022 to defeat or to break the supermajority. More on that later. I wanted to share with you the internal data on Prop 15, and it really shows you how a bad ballot title can be fatal. It's what we suffered for Prop 6 in 2018 when they changed the title from gas tax repeal to eliminates road repairs and transportation funds, which, again, a lie. What you see here is the blue line is the no vote. In March, before they gave us a bad title on Prop 15, we asked Californians, do you believe that we should raise property taxes on commercial, retail, industrial, and mixed-use projects, even if we exempt homeowners and small businesses that are worth $3 million or less? So we were very fair about the polling. And again, 64% of Californians said, hells no. And only about 28% of Californians were in favor of it. Well, then you look in August, and that was the first poll we did after we got the bad title. And the title of Prop 15 did not say raises taxes or raises property taxes. It said increases funding for schools and community services. Really a biased title. It was unfair. Take a look at that number. The yes vote shot up to 61%. The no vote cratered down to 26%. And so we had to run aggressive ads and let people know that Prop 15 is a tax hike. If you look at our sign there, we didn't go with any other messaging. It was like, hit you over the head. No on 15, stop the tax hikes. And we were very disciplined in our message. But the reason why we were ultimately able to move the numbers, as you see, very slowly with those ads and with a lot of hard work, was because we had a lot of money from the business community and a lot of hard work on our side with the grassroots, but a lot of money from the business community. We did not have that for Prop 6, and recognize that if there's another tax hike that comes along, suppose they say we're going to raise taxes on, guns in California, and business groups say, well, we don't have guns, so we're not going to fund it. And those gun stores can try to do that, but whatever, they're on their own. They very well could hide the fact that it's a tax increase, and they could absolutely win again. And so I wanted to show you these numbers to show how dramatically different the outcome is when people are given a fair ballot title. When people kept saying, how is it that anyone's voting for Prop 15? How could they vote for taxes in the middle of a pandemic? I'd say they're being lied to on the ballot. They don't know. They don't realize what they're voting on. And so we have to, in addition to doing all the other things that we're working on at Reform California, we have to strike a blow against these erroneous and biased ballot titles. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But I want you to know why that's so important, because when people say, oh, ballot title reform, what a geeky inside baseball issue to tackle. Really? For my friends in the business community who put $100 million into defeating Prop 15, had we had a fair ballot title, you might have only had to put in 15 million or 20 million. And so this has got to be addressed. As a team, we have to commit to ensuring that all ballot titles are fair, honest, and unbiased. Here's some observations on the voters. And it's what we've known for many years, okay? And don't let the liberal media tell you anything different. California voters are center-right voters. They are center-right voters. They agree with our policies and agendas. Only when they know what they are voting on. The ballot titles can be a problem. But this year, they were anti-tax. They were pro-jobs with Prop 22. And again, those two issues had a lot of money behind them. They're pro-fairness. Prop 16 lost. And that was a grassroots campaign, but they also had, a good amount of money to get the word out. And I argue that they're pro-law enforcement. Prop 20 would have passed if we had described it properly, that, we would actually allow police officers to enforce laws that have been on the books to combat property crime, rape of an unconscious person, preventing the early release of violent criminals. Had we had the money in a proper ballot title, they would have known what they were voting on, and they would have voted in favor of law enforcement. All of the polling that we've done at Reform California verifies that California voters are center right on issues. They don't like Republicans in most cases, but we can change that. So what is the problem with candidates on the Republican side that lost? And I'm thinking of a couple local candidates here in San Diego that lost big time in districts they should have won. First and foremost, they're offering the wrong message. Take a look at that. Republicans are offering self-serve vanilla ice cream, not even in a cone. It's in a little dish. That's not very appealing to Californians. These Republicans ran as apologetic Republicans. Their mailers said, "I'm sorry for being a Republican. I'm not one of those Republicans." One guy who ran for local office, and I'm in the district, sent me about 9 mailers that said, "Local priorities, not national politics." So if I'm an undecided middle of the road voter, I'm going to see that saying, "Oh, he must be a Republican. He's trying to hide the fact that he's a Republican from me. He must be not genuine, not honest, not transparent." Republicans need to be bold, creative. They need to be strong and principled in offering an alternative agenda. They can't be imitations. They can't be Democrat light. They can't be cheap knockoffs. And they can't be anything but authentic. They have to be authentic. And that's what we're missing here. Second is lazy operations. I saw a lot of incumbents have problems. And I would argue in 2018, this was a big issue of incumbents running and losing elections because they really didn't take care of their constituents while they were in office. They didn't hustle. They didn't do the outreach, the town halls, the letters to constituents, surveys of constituents. They didn't take care of casework when someone called them about unemployment insurance or called them about their medals for being a veteran or their issues regarding Social Security. Bad constituent service of elected officials, the word gets around real quick. We also saw a bunch of pretend campaigns, and I need to tell you what this is about. This is where candidates would take pictures of themselves out in the community, but that's the only time they were in the community was to take a picture and put it on Facebook. They weren't walking door to door. They weren't aggressively trying to go and meet different groups, whether it was a church group, whether it was an ethnic group, whether it was a Rotary Club. They weren't out there aggressively meeting and listening to voters. No team approach. See what the Democrats do? They just send like a pack of wolves. They got, Todd Gloria in San Diego helping out a state assembly candidate, helping out a city council candidate, helping out a water board candidate. They all work together. They share lists. They share volunteers. They do unified walks. They raise money together. Not the Republicans. It's everyone on their own. And finally, I see some pretty negligent fundraising. It's hard for you to get your message out if you don't have fuel in the tank. A lot of our elected officials on the Republican side depend on a small group of, frankly, dying major donors. A lot of these major donors who write the max out checks, they're leaving for other states, Utah, Florida, Texas. We need to start building our low dollar and medium dollar donor base. That's how Democrats are winning. We need to also respect the legions of Californians who are willing to put in $25 if they believe that everyone else is putting in that amount, and it will be collectively a powerful movement. We've got to fix these 4 problems as we go into 2022. I believe 2022 is going to be a good year. I believe that Democrat policies in California are finally going to catch up with them. We got a lot of good work, a lot of good material to work with. But we have to be in a position where we deal with our own team's deficiencies with these 4 issues. So here are our priorities moving into 2021. First, no change. Anytime they propose tax increases, we're going to come down on them like a hammer. That's going to mean that we need to do a rapid response effort in the legislature. We did this with the water tax, the tax, and we were able to stop a number of tax increases last cycle, and I was very pleased about that. But this cycle, they're going to be hungry because they didn't get their Prop 15. And hopefully, Republicans in the Senate won't agree to any sort of bailout on COVID-19. No. They shut down the economy. They put people out of work. They bankrupt small businesses. And now they want a bailout. Nope, not happening. So they will try raising our taxes. I believe a sales tax will be the first thing. They will try all sorts of fees. Local sales taxes will be proposed. We got to be ready. The second they sniff around about a tax, we got to mobilize and fill up their inboxes and their phone lines. And then, of course, when they do put it on the ballot, we need to organize the campaigns to defeat them, particularly the local tax hikes, because they usually succeed with local tax hikes because local citizens are not capable of running campaigns. It's one of the reasons why Reform California exists as a permanent campaign. We are the ones that are able to come in and work with locals to actually run a very low overhead, very high impact campaign in each of those areas. Second, we got to fix election law and restore integrity. That's why we will continue to demand county by county audits of the voter rolls to purge ineligible and inactive and duplicate votes. Second, we got to file an initiative and pursue a project to change title and summary on all ballot measures so that a fair title is given and that any tax increase must begin with the words tax increase. We do that and we will strike a blow against big government in California automatically. And third, we need to make sure that the redistricting of congressional, state Senate, state assembly, local, county, and city boards and commissions, that all the districts must be fair, not gerrymandered, which is what we have right now. Third, we need to recruit and support reform leaders. And we're going to be doing a couple additional things this cycle that I'm very excited about. First, we need to do more work to basically give these candidates some hot issues that they can run on. I saw a number of these. I mean, obviously, the opposition to tax increases, the gas tax was the beautiful issue for everyone to run on in 2018. Most did not run on it, unfortunately, to their detriment. In 2020, running against AB 5 was a powerful issue. A lot of candidates didn't do that. Running against Prop 15, a good issue. Sadly, a lot of candidates didn't do that. How about SB 145, the law that allows sex offenders to avoid registry, allowing an individual who's a predator who attacks someone as young as 14 years of age and allows them to remain off the sex offender registry? Democrats gave us that law. It was the number one polling issue across the state of California, whether it was an independent, a Republican, or a Democrat voter. It was high on their list of concerns once they knew what the law was. And if they felt that someone voted for that, they would punish them by withholding their support. So we have to do a better job at Reform California in basically giving our candidates the polling and the policy points that they need and really pushing hard to get them to adopt that agenda. Second, we do need to recruit and prioritize candidates in target seats. We did a good job of that this cycle. You need to continue that. And then finally, we are establishing at Reform California something called the Reform Action Resource Center. And that's where we will take applications for reformers in every community across the state that if they come and say, we want to recall our city council member in Carlsbad because she's a wingnut and she wants to steal our road repair money and she wants to support AB 5 and she wants lockdowns, we want to recall her from office. And if we do, we break the Democrat majority on the council. Well, what we'll do is we'll examine whether that proposal, whether the group behind that proposal has the professional team and the strategy and adequate funding to actually proceed with the project. And we will then provide them with matching funds, with free services, of course, in compliance with campaign law, we have to report it. But we will be able to help them take that project from idea to actual execution. And so we're very excited about that program that's going to be launching in January. Finally, we need to continue to inform and mobilize voters. We're continually expanding our grassroots database through our online petitions, asking people to sign the petition and forward the petition, because what that does is it allows us to figure out who are the reform-minded voters out there, particularly independent voters. And that's a powerful database to activate when we try to fight bad policies and help elect good candidates. We will continue to organize town halls and planning and activist meetings in target areas. And of course, our policy research and watchdog reports will continue, although I don't ever think we will ever publish a report like we did this cycle on a rat epidemic. All right, I want to talk about redistricting. Take a look at this. This is Orange County. If you notice, there are a number of districts. The 48th district, which we just picked up, but we lost in 2018, has some blue in Costa Mesa, but largely is red in Newport Beach, has some blue in Laguna Beach. It was a seat that we won back, but it's a toss-up seat. A lot of blue, but also some red. Take a look at the 39th district up there. A lot of red, but a good amount of blue as well. It's a toss-up seat. Take a look at the 45th. Lots of red in the north and the south, but a whole lot of blue in the center. The 45th remains in Democrat hands. Look at the 49th. Look how red that is. That's held by a Democrat right now. Because south of Orange County, the 49th goes all the way down to UCSD and picks up a lot of Democrats. We are going to do redistricting this year. Right now, it's not a fair process. In 2010, Republicans didn't even show up to try to influence redistricting. Take a look at what can happen in Orange County if we move some lines. If in the 47th district, which is held by a Democrat, we take those Republican precincts right here and move them out of the 47th into the 48th, the 48th becomes a safe Republican seat, not a toss-up. Hey, take a look over here in Villa Park, in Anaheim Hills. Move those precincts into the 39th, and you get a safe Republican seat. And then take a look at the south of the 45th and the 49th, unite those two areas, and you get a single Republican district. The funny part about this is what's left is you get 3 Democrats and only 2 Democrat seats having to fight each other to see whose political career gets ended. Nothing better than that. The point I'm making is a lot of these elections are determined by the districts that are drawn. And if the process is not fair, then we lose seats that ordinarily we should hold. That's how the Democrats have been able to get a supermajority. I can go through other areas throughout the state of California of other maps for state assembly, state senate, Congress, even down to your city councils, where the maps have been manipulated so the politicians are choosing the voters, not the voters choosing the politicians. And by the way, the manipulation has been all on one side of the spectrum. What we want to do is make sure that we fight for logical maps, reasonable maps, and fair maps. Here's how we need your help going forward. Obviously, we need to continue to raise money. I know I'm always asking for money. However, we are a permanent campaign. We are grassroots funded. We don't have the big business groups writing us checks. What we do is we go to them saying, hey, we want you to fund your committee to do the following ads. If you do that, we will do grassroots. And by doing that approach, we've been able to leverage millions of dollars in support for our agenda. But the reason why they even let us in the building to make the pitch is because we've got tens of thousands of grassroots donors who are giving $25, $50, $100, $250. That grassroots support gives us a hammer. Doesn't mean that hammer builds the house, but it gives us a hammer and it gives us a seat at the table, which the grassroots have not had a seat at the table in a long time. So we ask you to continue where you can to continue to provide fuel for the campaign. We never shut down because if you start up a campaign, there's a lot of costs associated with it. We need to be a permanent campaign that never shuts down, that's always looking to fight, always recruiting candidates, always building our grassroots, always organizing districts, always raising resources so that when we need them, the resources are there and that we don't have to spend a lot of time trying to catch up. Second, volunteer. We only succeed because of the work you do. The funding is one part of the issue. If we don't have you actively engaged as a volunteer, we cannot be successful. And so, yes, volunteer directly on campaign projects, mailers, callers, walking door to door. But also you can be a volunteer just by promoting our petitions, our news stories, our events, forwarding the emails that I'm sending you. That's a volunteer role. You don't underestimate how powerful you are when you send your friends information, and then suddenly you've been able to grow our footprint on an issue by 10 or 12 fold. And finally, participate in our rapid response. When we are out there saying that the legislature has just introduced a bill, they're going to vote on it on Tuesday. We only have 4 days to get the voters to mobilize and speak out. Please send an email, call. This year, we're going to do a lot of that with the Redistricting Commission. When the Democrats come in with a phony map that's unfair, we're going to ask you to fill the commissioners' inboxes with your outrage that the map does not reflect what your neighborhood looks like and that you're being put into a district that you have no common interest in or no community of interest in. And so please continue to volunteer. And then finally, partner. Here's how I want you to think about partnerships. Are you a member of a chamber of commerce? Are you a member of a Rotary Club? Are you a member of a church? Are you a member of an HOA? All of those organizations at some point in time are going to have an alignment with what we're trying to accomplish. For example, Rotary is nonpartisan, but they probably will say, we want to support the fair ballot title, plain English ballot title initiative of Reform California. Who can argue against that? A church also may not be partisan, but they may say, you know, those candidates that voted for the Sexual Predator Protection Act, yeah, we're going to oppose them. Whether they're Democrat or Republican, they don't reflect our values. And so I need you to come to us and say, hey, I'm a member of an organization and I want to get them connected to you. How do I arrange that? How do we get the two organizations working together? Also, and I need you to really do this. I know it's uncomfortable because you think that an elected official is somehow special. They're not. Just see Gavin Newsom and his little French Laundry dinner. You need to help us with Republican elected officials. When you see them, turn to them and say, what are you doing to recruit candidates? How much money, sir, have you raised? And I don't want to know what have you spent it on with cocktail parties and fundraising expenses. I want to know how much money are you sitting on for direct voter contact, because I don't want you to be targeted. A lot of our elected officials, they show up at the Rotary Club or the Republican Women Federated event, and they have a free lunch, and they're happy about that, but they never do any of the work that the Democrats do to raise the political capacity to take back our state. And so we got to start telling those elected members, you better be part of the team, and no lip service, no laziness. I want to know what you're doing with Reform California. I want to know what you're doing with Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association. Don't give me lip service. I want to hear it from Carl. I want to hear it from John Kupal, because they will listen to you. They see you a lot. You're their volunteers sometimes. You help them in their first race. Do not underestimate your ability to get an elected official to get off the sofa and actually do some work. Because the Democrats are working. I'm just telling you, they're working. So with that, let me open it up to questions. If you're in Zoom, click raise hand and we'll call on you. If you want to ask a question in the dialogue box, you can click on the Q&A box and type it in. Or if you're on the phone, hit *9. Now, while Dave gets our first person set up in Zoom, I'm going to look at the Q&A box. Robert says, did Prop 22 help anyone but drivers? Did it do anything for small business? Robert, it did. Okay. It helped the drivers and it helped the users of Uber and Lyft directly, but it also helped everyone who opposes AB5, because it sends a message that the voters in California do not want AB5 to be the law. I was disappointed that Uber and Lyft only took care of themselves. I wanted them to do an AB5 repeal overall. But that's business for you. If you think business is philosophical or faithful, they're not. They are only in it for themselves. So moving forward, we need to take the win of Prop 22 and use it to indict the rest of AB5 and get that repealed. And there's a number of things that we're going to be doing on that through Reform California. We were one of the first to go out against AB5 and do coalitions. We did that tutor press conference. Tutors would be banned under AB5 during the pandemic, hiring tutors. It got a lot of attention, but we are going to be doing more on AB5 for sure. All right, Dan Pan, go ahead and ask your question. You're on Zoom.
Yes, my name is Dan. I'm a board member of BAHN, Business and Housing Network. We pretty actively fought against Proposition 15, Proposition 21, and I got your information from reformcalifornia.org. We ordered a lot of stickers, all those kind of stuff. But anyway, we are a nano organization, grassroots, as not just like you guys, and we are in Northern California. So my first question, so Reform California is only focused on in Orange County, and no. Also as the part of organization. I just say from your question, they said you want other organizations to be part of your joint force. So I'm just want to ask you how we can work together. I saw all the kind of items you try to do, and it seems like it's very line up with our pursuit. I will just say, even we're a nano organization, but the other kind of issues I think we pretty much agree with. So
okay, so let me tackle some of that, Dan. So yes, we want to partner. No, we are not just focused on Orange County. Although a lot of our support is in Southern California because of a variety of reasons. I was elected in San Diego. I have a radio show that's Southern California, though it's available on iHeartRadio podcasts statewide. We are working across the state. When we did the gas tax repeal, we did statewide organizing. And so our network and our chapters are really the individuals in each of these areas. What we need to do, though, is we need to get more and more infrastructure in the areas where we're weakest. We're strongest in Southern California, but we need to expand through Central Valley and Northern California as well. We already have members there, supporters, volunteers, contributors, and we do get our information out there and we activate those individuals as part of the reform movement. But in terms of programs on the ground, that's, again, where our goal is to continue to expand and expand and expand. And we've been doing that. This year, I'm so proud of what we were able to do in Orange County, in LA, in the Inland Empire, because we had some really good successes in those areas. Now we need to continue to activate in other areas as well. Next up is Nancy Love. Nancy, go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, Carl. First, I want to thank you for everything you've done with Reform California, because all of these issues is exactly what the CAGOP should be doing, and they've done none of it. So here's my question. I was glad to see that one of your investigative research is going to be the county by county audits. I looked at the registration data for California by county, and it says that overall, and in each county, but overall statewide, registration for Republicans is only 24.19%.
Right.
I really can't believe that. And if that's true, what the heck has the CAGOP been doing? It's
look when your brand is a bunch of candidates who are ashamed to be part of that brand, don't be surprised that nobody wants to put the brand on their shirt either. And so we've got a problem in California. And yes, the California Republican Party has been a dumpster fire for about 20 years. They have a new chair, and I think she's well-intentioned and she wants to go in the right direction. But she also has to serve elected officials who have no appetite. Let me be blunt. Most of our California elected officials are only concerned about their own seat, which is why many of them are losing their seats, because when you don't work as a team, then you get picked off one by one by one. And so we've got to, as the grassroots, and this is why Reform California exists, we do not need to kowtow to elected officials. We do not have to carry the water for the California Republican Party. When we need to give them a swift kick in the ass, we can do it because we are independent and we are mission-based. But what we want to do is see if we can encourage them to do the right thing. And I think we can get there. I certainly believe we can. I don't want us to be fighting amongst ourselves. I want to motivate us to work together as a team and build on some of the good success that we had in 2020, in the 2020 election. But in order to get there, we got to change the sorts of people that we are supporting within our own party. I see a question here. Could you comment on Kevin Faulconer announcing today that he may run for governor? Sorry, soft serve ice cream in a broken dish. That's what you're being given there. Not only is he cowardly in terms of his convictions and wrong on the issues, but there's a lot of baggage there that most people are not aware of. Those of us in San Diego are aware of it, but no, he is not the guy to help us lead a rebranding and a renaissance of the Republican Party. I can tell you that right now. That being said, I'm not endorsing anyone in the governor's race. We're still just, frankly, catching up on sleep from our 2020 election. Let's go with Sandy Sato. Sandy, are you there? Sandy, unmute yourself so we can hear you. Sandy?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Go ahead.
No, I was wondering. I wanted while you were going on with the Reform California with the tax hike, I really wanted to volunteer and do things. I work full time, so I don't have a lot of time, and I noticed that the volunteer opportunities, while I'm down in Chula Vista, a lot of the volunteer opportunities seem to be more in the Orange County area. Or
No, they're not. They're everywhere. So for example, at home, you can make phone calls. We have a lot of call programs coming up in the next 2 months. We're going to start. I'll go ahead and give you a little preview. I don't believe in public policy polling anymore. And so we did a survey in-house at Reform California, and it did quite well. I plan to do our own polling surveys inside Reform California by having you make the phone calls and ask voters questions. And
I'd like to do that.
Right. And so if you can make 30 calls over, 1 or 2 sessions while watching TV or knitting, you can volunteer from home. Our mailing program is mail from home. You basically get the materials and then you work. And we also have distributed sessions where groups get together and they do mail-a-thons at someone's home and they all meet up. Now with COVID-19, it's been a little difficult. We've got to figure out how to manage that and whatnot. But make no mistake about it, we need the help. And remember, as a volunteer, your volunteer role could literally be, I'm just going to take Carl's petition, Reform California's petition, and I'm going to get it out to a bunch of people and get them to sign it online. So what we're trying to do is take an issue on, give you the tools to fight back, and then you get to decide how much fighting back you want to do. But it's all doable.
How can I sign up for working with the mailing or making phone calls? How do I sign up for that?
Go to reformcalifornia.org.
Okay.
And when you scroll down, there will be a button there for sign up for volunteer. It's one of the first buttons you'll see on the homepage, reformcalifornia.org.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
It's right under the sign up your name. You scroll down and it says, we are the resistance, join the fight, contribute or volunteer. So sign up for the volunteer one.
Yeah, well, I like to contribute too, so I do that.
We can use the help. All right, let's go with Humbert Cabrera. Humbert, one of our candidates who worked really hard, and we appreciate that, Humbert, and he's always been there for us. Go ahead, Humbert.
Carl, thank you for everything you do. Just a quick comment. The Democrats are way ahead of us with their voter harvesting. What are the Republicans planning to do to create our own voter harvesting teams and combat theirs?
So we did a voter harvesting program in March called Barbecue Beer and Ballots. It did really well, but because of COVID-19, we did not do a ballot harvesting event or project in the fall election. What's interesting is the Democrats did not do a lot of voter harvesting either, because they viewed the all mail-in ballot as the better way to go, and their base was all fired up. So we're still studying turnout because the turnout has not been finalized. We're going to get the data files from the registrars of voters. We're going to do data analytics and we're going to see what happened. But I want to ban voter harvesting, ballot harvesting. I want to clean up the voter rolls. So the way to stop illegal voting is, number one, clean up the voter rolls. And then number two, stop voter harvesting. And frankly, this is where the Republicans in Congress can actually help us out. I believe the Republicans nationally can win back the House of Representatives in 2022. I think one of the first things they need to do is say that we will not seat members from California. And I know that that's going to be a big blow. But it's the only way for Republicans to get the attention of the nation of the absurd program of ballot harvesting out here in California, where you can have no confidence of who gets elected. And so the House has pure authority to decide not to seat members of Congress. They get the ultimate decision point there under the Constitution. Now, I'll let you in on a little secret. All you have to do is make the threat. And I guarantee you that California recognizes that they get a heck of a lot more Democrat members of Congress than they get Republicans, and they'd be way behind on the list. So I think we need to do things like that. You got to get aggressive. You got to go for broke. No more Mr. Nice Guy on this stuff. We have elections that are being stolen, and we got to start fighting fire with fire and saying that if you don't clean up your election process, then we can't have confidence that the people who you say won. That's my solution.
Love it.
Let's go to Carl Offill. Carl, Offill. Carl, go ahead. Carl with a K. Unmute yourself, Carl. Can't hear you, Carl. You have to unmute yourself. Let's go with Tracy Bondi Pear. Tracy, unmute yourself and ask your question. Tracy? All right, Jimmy, you're up next. Jimmy Avialotos.
Hey, Carl and everybody. Hey, so three-part question. Any election fraud data good enough to give to Rudy Giuliani and his crew working on the hammer and scorecard Dominion situation?
Nothing in California right now. They're not focused on California for good reason.
Right.
But we're looking at what they're doing and seeing if there's lessons learned for us to apply in California. Our best data is the report we released on October 15th with actual pictures of dead people's ballots and illegal immigrant ballots and duplicate and triplicate ballots. Of course, the media ignored it. They don't want to address it because they literally are serving up fake news. So what we're doing is we're continuing to catalog that evidence in California, because as we go forward with the audit approach county by county, we also may get to that point where we do have actionable legal grounds to sue and get maybe some federal judicial help on this issue.
And last thing, just really a comment. As I talked to people over the last probably 8 or 9 months, you know, in grocery store lines and you name it, I would break up conversation with anybody, anytime, ask them if they knew about Prop 15 and whatever, you know, was on the ballot. But a lot of them are, a lot of good people, a lot of good Californians are watching the news that is continually lying to them. Some of them don't even know it. So is there any way you can basically put together a list of alternative news feeds, like, I don't know, let's say, you know, Rush Limbaugh or your channel, or let's say One American News, etc. Because there's a lot of people who believe all the BS that 90% of the local news here in Southern California is dishing out. I stumbled upon One American News a couple of years ago, thank God.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't know where to go to get the truth.
Well, it is a problem, which is why, you know, obviously my show on the podcast has been real popular statewide, not just in our signal area, which is basically LA, Santa Barbara, down through Orange County, San Diego, Inland Empire. We are looking at ways to partner with groups and expand the media that we're able to provide. So nothing to announce yet on that, but it is an issue that you're absolutely right we've got to address. And so we definitely will be, you know, looking at that going forward. Question here is Carl willing to speak to local GOP groups in Southern California? I'm willing to speak anywhere. Zoom obviously is real helpful, but yes, we're willing to speak anywhere. Next question is, how aligned are you, Reform California, with John Cox? Well, John Cox and I talk pretty regularly. He may run for governor. Again, I'm not endorsing him at this point. I have laid out some things that I think he needs to do better on if he runs for governor, that he can improve on from 2018. If he's going to run and win, if he has a chance to win, he's going to have to run a far more aggressive campaign in 2022. And he knows that. We'll see how he does, see how he takes that advice. But in terms of coordination, yes, we do coordinate with these groups. You know, everything that we do is coalition based. We reach out to groups that are like-minded and say, how can we work together? Our best coalition partner by far is Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association. You know, we basically, there's not a whole lot of difference in terms of our philosophy, and we work really well at the grassroots level, activating voters across the state. Next question is, why isn't there a referendum on AB 5? No funding. There was no funding for the referendum. Uber and Lyft decided to file their own ballot measure. They've got a lot of money, millions and hundreds of millions of dollars. We are looking at a lawsuit on AB 5. Several of those are pending. And we are arguing with the business community that they're going to have to go after this, because this is a predatory law that's destroying so many tens of thousands of jobs across the state, hundreds of thousands of jobs across the state. It may take more penalties on these business groups in order for them to finally realize they got to fight AB 5. But AB 5 is not going away unless we repeal it. And that may mean that we take some of these legislators out of office in 2022. That's how you repeal AB 5. Sometimes it's not the direct approach, it's the hammer on the politicians that works. We will also be talking about more of AB 5 as we go forward. We got time for A few more questions. Tracy, I hear that you are unmuted. Go ahead, Tracy Bondi Pair.
Okay, great, thank you. Can we help in the recall of Gavin? I've been working very hard for your group and for the recall. We just got an extension. And if you were to take Reform and send us out to do this recall, I believe we could meet our goal by March.
We are talking now with a new set of players that have now come in to help the recall, that have done this in the past, and that's a good sign. Again, at Reform California, I'm never going to ask you to do something if I feel it's a suicide mission. We have, because the forces of good do not have a lot of resource and time. When I ask volunteers to do something, it's because we have a credible, real chance to win. And so at the beginning, it was not professionally managed. And I think even they will admit that. They were, I did sit down with them before they filed and went through everything they needed to do to earn our support and to do it right. They chose not to take that advice, but now it seems that they are. So stay tuned on that. It is something we are looking at. It's something that certainly is one avenue to strike back against Newsom. But I'm also very aware of the clock, the timeline, in terms of when would we have a recall election and how close is that to actually 2022. And so we're right now looking at that angle as well. So stay tuned on that. Right now, what we have done is promoted the fact that petition is there, and we've asked that the petitions be collected at our events. We've encouraged that people sign the petition, but as of yet, we have not organized any big push with our volunteers, because again, the campaign was our top priority as well. But now that we're past the campaign, now that we see an extension in the recall, all these things are now on the table.
Can you still hear me?
Yes, real quick.
Is there anything I can do to expedite getting this organized? I did talk to Denise Wells today.
Yep. No, we are in active discussion, so stay tuned. We're going through the process.
Okay.
Nancy Halbert, go ahead.
Hey, Carl. What is the schedule for us going into the campaign office and actually volunteering there?
So we made the decision today to shut the campaign office until December 1st. And we are right now putting together a mailing project, our first set of surveys, polling surveys. And I think you all are going to have a lot of fun with that. Because when you get a polling call, you know the person on the other end also, you know, when they're working for Democrats are like, I can't believe I'm having to poll this question. I don't even believe it. I think that the projects that we have teed up are going to be really very interesting for volunteers to work on, and they can be done from home. So it's not just going into the office. It's going to be a lot of home-based stuff for the foreseeable future. And we hope to have that stuff rolling, some of those projects in December, but get ready for January, because we're going to come right out of the chute. We got a lot of stuff to do in January. And so that's the schedule. But in order to know when we're doing things, just sign up as a volunteer. And I know you're already on the list, reformcalifornia.org, and then click under the volunteer button.
I'm sure we'll hear from Dave.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. He hears from me all the time about where are we with this? Okay, Paula, go ahead. Paula, are you there? Go ahead. All right. Paula's not talking. Two last questions we'll be able to take here tonight. Eugene Polly says, are you going to do a proposition to cover erroneous titles and summaries? Yes, we are. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to file the initiative that we've developed and see what title and summary we get on that initiative. Now that's going to cost us some money, but we want to file and see whether we will get a fair shot to get that passed. And if not, then we're going to have to figure out a workaround, potentially even litigation on that. And then finally, let's see here. We will take questions at info@reformcalifornia.org. Anna, this is a good question. not that the others are not, but can you talk about risk limiting audits and what you've been doing? A lot of interest by the public to do one in San Diego. So we're looking at something that's actually much more robust than a risk limiting audit. A risk limiting audit looks at certain data analytics, certain practices to improve on how an election is conducted. And I support it. It's being done in Orange County. It's a good thing to look at. However, I'm looking for a full-blown audit of every registration on the voter rolls. I'll start out, obviously, with a sample audit and see how bad the problem is, as long as the sample is a representative sample. But I believe that we need to go through every voter registration, county by county, and do a check. And if they don't have, if they are on the National Change of Address database for the Postal Service, purge them, because you're sending a ballot to a home that that person no longer lives at. If they are dead, purge them. If they came in through motor voter and they did not have documentation as a citizen, or if they declined to serve on a jury because they said, I'm not a citizen, then purge them. And so we need to go through and do a full-blown hand audit of voter rolls. And then, of course, use that potentially for changing how we register voters and the protocols for it. So I want to do both a risk limiting audit and then, of course, the full voter registration audit that we've proposed. We'll do two last questions. I guess we finally got one of our unmuted. Go ahead. Let's see. Who am I calling on? Paula, go ahead. Oh, no, Paula is muted. One last question is Shirlene Lopez. Shirlene, go ahead.
Hi, Carl. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. First of all, I wanted to congratulate you on all the successes this year. I personally kind of gave up getting involved after 2010 because of sort of my disgust for the California Republican Party.
Yeah.
But anyways, when Prop 6 came up, that really got me back in, and I thoroughly enjoy working with you because there aren't enough people that have the fire, the energy, and the passion to get a message out, which is just unbelievable to me. But anyways, I wanted to just quickly, so everybody will know, were you able to get enough money to retire the debt?
We did get enough money to retire the debt. And so my campaign treasurer was thrilled. She said, I can pay the invoices. We can tie a bow on it. So thank you for everyone that did contribute. But as I mentioned, we're pretty unique in that our campaign does not shut down. And in fact, I don't know, Democrats don't shut their campaigns down, by the way. And so by being a permanent campaign, it means that we're able to constantly build on the previous work that's been done. And so right now the team is going through, we just switched to a new volunteer management system. We switched to a new database. They're going through and doing all of the honey-do list items, that you need to do to have a successful program. So we always need to raise money, but we were able to retire the debt. Literally yesterday morning, we did our finalized closeout, but we still have the need to raise money. Every single project needs to be funded. And that's also how we raise money, is we don't just say give money generically, although we'll accept it and we do need it. We do project by project. So we will say, this is the project we want to do, and whatever we raise, we'll spend on that project, and we hope to raise at least this amount. That it has been very important for us to show people, what are we doing with the money? And I would like you to challenge other candidates and elected officials to do the same thing. Mm-hmm. Say, look, I'm willing to support you, but give me a plan. What project are you actually working on right now? How is this going to be used? And let's hold them a little more accountable for what they're doing and how they're doing it. And that's how the Democrats do it. We need to do it as well. So
yeah, great idea.
Thank you all for being here tonight. I just want to say thank you from the bottom of our heart. Everyone is a team player on this. We can't do this without you. All of our volunteers are the real lifeblood behind our effort. the individual donors who give $25. That all is the power of the movement. And when people say, well, we can't fight Sacramento alone, I'm just one person. Yeah, all of us working together, we're doing a pretty damn good job of it. Even in our losses, we know that we were able to punch the bully in the nose, like with Prop 6. And we need to continue to build on that, because I believe California can be brought back. And if we don't fight, who's going to do it? Because California will simply spread as a disease to the rest of the country if we're not here fighting each and every day. So thank you very much. Any additional questions, please do email info@reformcalifornia.org. You will get an answer. And we appreciate any ideas and thoughts, constructive criticism, positive feedback. Give us all your thoughts and we would be happy to respond. Thank you so much and have a good evening.